What is going on, everyone? Anthony Drew Gary here, host of The How To Show, where we talk about optimizing life, money, and happiness one how-to at a time. I have wanted to put this video together for a while now, and I finally get to do it, and I'm super excited about it. This week on The How To Show, we're going to talk about how to set up a monthly budget, why it's important, and why you should give it a try if it's something you've never done before. And this week, I've got a special guest on the show. It's going to be my wife, Ashley. Again, super excited to put this together. So without further ado, we'll just bring her on and we'll get started. Are you ready now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, fantastic. Ashley,
Hi.
honey, sweetie, welcome to the How To Show.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. So, as I mentioned, we're going to talk today about how we set up our monthly budget, how we do it in such a way that we can follow it, agree to it, and not kill each other before the month is over.
Which is key in a marriage.
That's right. At the beginning of the month, or even a couple of days beforehand, Ashley and I get together and we talk about what our budget's going to look like for the upcoming month, and we lay everything out that we've got going on. Now, you can do this either with a pencil and paper and write everything down. You can use Excel. There are several different apps that you can put on your phone or your tablet. However it makes the most sense to do this, it's mainly just important that you have some sort of system that works for you. We use a system that's on our phones, and it not only allows us to track both our income and our expenses, but as the month goes on, we can start to plug in our expenses to make sure that we're not overspending on any category.
Using an app has really helped us. I know we started budgeting before we were even married, when we were engaged. And at that time, I was a hairstylist, and so my income was based on what I was able to bring home from clients that month. And so with that, having irregular incomes, just looking back and seeing, patterns, obviously, in that industry, around the holidays was a lot busier than, say, February. And so knowing kind of what to expect and just making your best guess, I usually would lowball it just to be safe, so that way I wasn't living beyond my means.
Yeah, I think it's important that if you are in some sort of situation where you have irregular income, you're really focusing on those key items first. Your shelter, your food, your electricity, the staples of life that'll get you toward wherever that next commission check is, that next distribution, whatever that looks like in your situation, just to make sure that you're not caught without the basic needs of life at any point. So when we set up our budget, we do it basically in two sections. We break out all of the different income that we're going to have for a month, and then on the other side, we break out all of the different expenses that we expect to have, and we just lay it all out there. And so when we think of income, sometimes, over the course of our marriage, that's changed a little bit. Sometimes it's my paychecks and her paychecks. Sometimes it's things that we make money on by selling things at garage sales. Whatever that is, we track it for the month so that we can have a better understanding of what we can spend in that month. So we start to set all those things up in different categories. We really start first and foremost with the food, shelter, electricity, things that are non-negotiable. We need these things so that we can survive. Once we've got the basic necessities covered, we then shift into our monthly needs. And needs are a relative term, but these are the things I'm talking like, giving to charity, your different types of insurance, your gas, your transportation, whatever sort of vehicle expenses you might have, your internet, and then, sinking funds. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you're trying to save for an item, maybe it's a vacation, or you're going to need a car replaced soon, anything like that. If you can start sending portions of your check or your income for the month every time that you get paid on purpose, it'll start to give those dollars a job so that everything that you have in your budget makes priorities toward the goals that you have. And I don't want to be the only one talking, so let's get in on this.
It's also important to know what you have and what you're going to need that month. I'm home now, and so with that, I know more about our inventory on pet supplies and inventory such as toilet paper, since I'm the main one that uses that. So it's definitely knowing, what does our pet budget look like for that month, or what kind of needs does our daughter need, or just for baby showers and weddings and things of that nature.
And so we track these all line by line, and after we're done with that, we have the categories that Ashley mentioned, the pets, the toiletries, the different things to make sure that we know what we're looking at each month.
So beyond our necessities and our non-negotiables, we also take a look at our calendars to see what's coming up, whether we have license plates or we have oil changes, different things like that. Our trash comes, 4 times a year?
Well, our trash comes every week, but we pay for it every quarter. And so those types of things that you don't pay for every month, it's important to look at them 2 different ways. Either you can absorb those within your monthly budget, or if they're larger ticket items, maybe you need to save a little bit each month so that you have enough to cover that when it's time to make that payment.
So once you hit all of those monthly needs, you should hopefully have a little bit more left over for your wants that month, whether that be a subscription that you love, or memberships to the gym or wherever, you're a member at, I guess, or just spending money. I know every month we look at what we have left over for what we call blow money, to where we get a certain allowance to spend on whatever we would want, whether it's, for me, hair, makeup, clothes, or golf.
Yeah, that's right. Golf is important. And so every month that we look at this, we make sure that by no means does our blow money exceed what we have to spend. And so maybe there's a month where I don't have a lot of needs or wants or anything, and Ashley does. We can take some of that money and shift it around, and you can manipulate your budget throughout the month. I think that's important and healthy to do. You just have to be intentional with it so that you're making sure that you're not spending money that you don't have. And even if you're a single person, this still applies. You're basically accountable to you. But if you're in a situation like we are, we're accountable to one another. I'm making sure I'm not spending money that we don't have, as is Ashley. And so this is a important lesson in basically being accountable to your spouse. When we think about actionable tips, I think it's important to start somewhere. This isn't a process that you're going to get right off the bat.
No.
And so, it's easy once you've done it a while to have a good idea of what you've spent in prior months, only because you've tracked it and you have an idea of what that cost really is. And so, is there anything you can think of where that's been true in our lives? I can think of definitely in our restaurants. We can change that around. Some months we spend a lot on them, some months we spend a lot on groceries. And so we separate those into 2 different categories to make sure that we're intentional with what our spending is. And if we really have something where we need to save extra for a month, that's a good place where we can usually find it. We keep ourselves out of the restaurants and we make more meals at home.
And I know too, we've been able to definitely look more at the budget, and with me being home and having a baby, we don't go out nearly as much. And so seeing how that fluctuates, but don't expect perfection. We've been doing this for 4 years now at least, together. And so that, and even still, that's been difficult. It's been a challenge. Once we went from being engaged to actually being married, the amount of money that I had to spend on hair and makeup and clothes, because the salon I was at was on the backside of a boutique, that was really difficult. It was a little bit of a rude awakening, just because together we had more bills. I was living at home with my parents, and so seeing how just life changes and preparing for a baby this past summer, saving up and putting aside money for her things, it's real life. It gets messy a little.
Yeah, and I think this is an instance where the more you do it, the better you get. And this isn't going to solve all of your problems, or it's not going to make your world complete by any stretch of the imagination. But there are incremental steps here that you can make, where if you have a better understanding of how you're spending your money, you can be more intentional about it. And again, whatever your goals are, you can start to live your life out in a way that will help you achieve them in a financial sense, as well as however else it'll help you get to where you need to be.
And I think overall too, it's definitely helped us in a marital aspect, as far as just having a foundation and a format to look at and continue that discussion around finances, because that's a huge portion of being married. And I mean, we don't have big fights about it.
Yeah, ideally we don't fight about money, not because we have more than we need or we have less than we need, but we know that we have to be intentional about what we have and how we use it.
And it's just communicating about it and being clear and open and intentional.
Yeah, so I think the biggest actionable tip from this episode is to be intentional, write things down, and if you've never tried to budget for a month before, I recommend you trying it. You can use a number of apps, a sheet of paper, an Excel sheet. Again, there are a lot of different ways to do this, so I recommend trying it, and I think you'll be happy with the outcome. That is going to bring the interview portion of this episode of the How To Show to a close. So, Ashley, I appreciate you joining me. This is not the last time you're going to do it, so get ready for 2020 to be fun.
Great. I can't wait.
All right. See?
Neither can Maren.
Maren's excited too. So, thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. In our excitement to do a video like that together, we admittedly forgot a couple of things that I want to touch on before we wrap this up. And so, if you are in a situation where you have any sort of debt, and that can be student loans or consumer debt, credit cards, any sort of payments, maybe it's a car payment, anything like that, you need to plug that in as some of your different items in your budget before you get to those wants or any of those superfluous categories that you might have, just to make sure that you're hitting those so that you're making your payments so that you don't fall behind in anything. Additionally, before you hit on wants for different categories, you may want to look at your savings. What can you be throwing away toward either retirement or maybe different savings goals that you have above and beyond the things that we've talked about so far? I am going to do videos in the near future about saving both for retirement and eliminating debt, and we're going to cover all of that in greater detail, but we needed to get started with some of the basics, such as getting a budget written down and agreeing to a monthly budget every month. Special thanks again to Ashley for joining me on this video. That was really fun putting a video together with my wife, so I hope we can do more of those in the upcoming months, years, and however long the How To Show goes. If you can take away one thing from this video, please go ahead and try to make a monthly budget if you've never done it before. It'll help you better understand what you're spending, what you're saving, and what it might look like if you were to make some decisions based on that information. Definitely recommend it. I hope you learned something from this episode, and again, you had some actionable tips. Please leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts on it. And if you haven't done it already, you know it's not too late to smash that like button. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you can be the first to know about new content, and that happens every Wednesday. You'll get a notification or you'll see it pop up in your YouTube feed. And if you have any ideas for additional topics on things we can cover on the How To Show, please leave me a comment. Love reading those. Until next time, this is Anthony Drew Gary, host of the How To Show, signing off.